Welcome to the second video. Here we will talk a bit about prosthetics, assistive technology and technology in general. First, let's have a bit of a context. In 2015, all the member states of the United Nations adopted the Agenda 2030 for the sustainable development, which are 17 sustainable development goals, which provide a common blueprint for peace and prosperity for people and the planet. Recently, the transformative promise of the sustainable goals, leave no one behind. It represents the commitment of all United Nations member states to eradicate poverty in all the forms and discrimination and exclusion, and reduce the inequalities and vulnerabilities that leave people behind and undermine the potential of individuals and of humanity as a whole. So this is the baseline of the following technologies that you will see in this video. So we have prosthetics. Prosthetics are artificial devices that replace a missing body part. So here we can see a person without an arm, and it can be replaced with a sophisticated artificial arm, and we can see lower technology products like the prosthesis for breast cancer survivors, which is external to replace the lost breast. Assistive technology is a term for assistive, adaptive and rehabilitative device for people with disabilities or people who are older. So we can see different types of assistive technology. I have some more links in the description of the video. On the upper right corner you can see the C-Pen, which is a mini scanner that can scan a physical book and read it out loud. We can see a keyboard for people who can write in Braille. And on the left we can see a lady that can move an arm that can bring her coffee only with her brain. Let's see a bit of the video.
You're watching the most advanced brain-machine interface in action. Kathy Hutchinson is paralysed and unable to speak, but just by thinking she's able to control the movements of this robotic arm and drink her morning coffee. She's part of a pioneering study run by researchers at Brown University in the US.
So we can see here that there are different interfaces for different people, and then some low-tech assistive technology, which is the white cane for people with low vision, and of course the texting on the cell phones. Texting has been invented for people who couldn't receive phone calls because of hearing loss, or people who couldn't hear well, so text was an alternative to phone calls. However, today it doesn't consider an assistive technology. Everyone uses text messages to communicate with each other, and in many cultures you are supposed to send a text informing the person that you are going to call them, because you don't want to interrupt them. So you can say a text, "Are you free for a call?" and then you can call if the person is free. Some more assistive technology that we don't have it in mind as assistive technology is the glasses that we wear, most of us, to read books or to look far away. On the left we can see a doorbell for people with hearing loss. Instead of a sound, this bell produces light, so the person knows that someone is on the door. Since even the glasses that we are wearing to see far away is assistive technology, where do we stop? For example, a bucket is assistive technology for people who need to carry water for kilometers in order to have clean water to wash themselves or to drink, to cook, and so on. Then it gets also the question, who is capable of moving the water from the source to the place that it's supposed to be consumed. Some people need to walk in hot climate for many kilometers until they actually being able to find some clean water, and they do that almost every day. But we don't need to do that in the West society, because we have a different type of system. We can afford a different type of system, and if we are placed in a situation where we were supposed to carry the water from one place to the other with buckets under high temperature, probably we would have considered as unable to do this. Let's talk about for whom are we working, for whom are we designing for. So here you can see some of the pictures that we saw in the slide that we talk about prosthetics. On the bottom right corner we can see a man changing the diapers of a baby. The man has no arm. The story of this man is described in the book What Can a Body Do? By Sara Hendren, if I say correctly the name. You can find the link about this book in the description of this video. So this guy, when he was a child, his parents were told that they had to make him wear the prosthesis as soon as possible so he can get used to it. However, the child could do most of the things without the prosthesis, and when he was wearing the prosthesis he didn't feel comfortable. It was too heavy for him, and if I remember correctly it was itchy as well, so he didn't want to wear it. So his parents respected that, and they removed the prosthesis since he could do everything he wanted with one arm. However, they realized that when he wasn't wearing the prosthesis, the neighbors and other people were staring at him more. Similarly, was a story in the same book again about the prosthesis of breast cancer that we see on the right side of the slide. So it was a woman confident enough to go out in the street without wearing her prosthesis. So she went to the medical personnel, to the clinic to have a follow-up examination, and there the person who received her told her, but you don't wear your prosthesis. And she was kind of, well, I feel confident enough not to wear it. And the healthcare personnel told her that, but you should wear it, because if you don't wear it, you make the rest of us depressed. When we design a prosthesis, we have to also think, are we designing for its functionality or because of the social norms? And here we have a young lady talking about norms and living with one arm.
Kids and adults often ask me, what's it like to have one hand? And I ask them back and say, what's it like to have two hands? Most people just say it's normal. Well, for me, having one hand is normal. We all have different views on what we think is normal, and I think that's really cool.
So, what do we see as a problem for some people, it may not be a problem. This is one reason why we need to increase empathy and to understand that our experiences don't always match other people's experiences. You can take a break and think about the following. What does the word normal mean for you? How do you think our perception of normal influence our understanding of users? How do you perceive the term assistive technology after this presentation?